We already divided everything. My aunt announced. You weren't invited for a reason? The lawyer frowned. But her name is the only one on the will. The room went silent. I just stared at that little red heart icon from Ryan. The numbness that settled over me wasn't grief. It was clarity. My profession as an auditor isn't just a job, it's how my mind works. I see ledgers. I see assets and liabilities. And I suddenly saw the last 10 years of my life as a balance sheet that was severely, toxically, unbalanced. Okay. I whispered to the empty room. If I'm not family, I'm not their bank. I opened my laptop. The screen flared to life. 1:2:03 a.m. I logged into the joint account I used to manage their expenses. My expenses. Really? First, the big one. The monthly $8,000 mortgage payment for Aunt Brenda's house. The one I was paying. I clicked Stop Future Payments. A little box popped up. Are you sure? Oh, I was sure. Cancelled. Next, my cousin Ryan. His $2,000 monthly lease payment for that stupid BMW he couldn't afford, the one I co-signed for. I went to the bank portal. Cancel automatic transfer. Done. Then, the American Express card. The one I'd given Brenda as an authorized user for emergencies, which had somehow become a daily spa budget. I clicked Account Services. Then Freeze Card. Effective immediately. Finally, the last lifeline. The $1,500 weekly transfer I sent to Ryan for his real estate startup, a startup that had been starting up for 3 years. I clicked Cancel. It was 1:2:07 a.m. In 16 minutes, I had undone a decade of financial support. I shut the laptop. The only sound in the room was the click it made as it closed. The money line was cut. You need to understand. My actions at 1:2:07 a.m. weren't an emotional outburst. They were a correction. A balancing of the books. For years, my Aunt Brenda loved to tell people I was cold. That I was all about the numbers. She was right. And these were the numbers. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource. I wasn't just helping out. I was their silent investor. 3 years ago, that family home, the $2.5 million brownstone in Brooklyn, was in foreclosure. Aunt Brenda, the matriarch, hadn't paid the property taxes in, well, ever. I got the call. A weeping, hysterical message about how they were going to lose everything. So I stepped in. I paid off the liens. I took over the mortgage. I saved their home. It was a verbal agreement. Of course. This is an investment. Aunt Brenda, I said. This is business. She just smiled, patted my hand, and said, Of course. Dear, whatever you say. I funded Ryan's real estate education. I funded all 3 of his failing startups. All while they called me the lonely one or the workaholic because I was too busy at my auditing firm to make it to Sunday barbecues. The very barbecues I was paying for. There's a concept in psychology, the scapegoat, and the golden child. My mother, Susan, was the original scapegoat. She was the one who got the scholarship. The one who went to college. The one who built a life based on her intellect. She was too sensitive. Too smart for her own good. Aunt Brenda, meanwhile, was the golden child, the one who stayed home. The one who was so good to her parents. The one who believed she was entitled to the family's assets, including my mother Z. When my mother passed, that scapegoat mantle fell right onto my shoulders. I was the one responsible, the one who had to fix everything, and the one who would get all the blame. My role wasn't to be loved, it was to be used. That text message at 1:15 p.m. It didn't break me. It focused me. Psychologists call it compartmentalization. For years, I had put all the little hurts, all the snide comments, all the financial requests into a box. I had to. Just to function. I was numb. Running on autopilot. Grieving my mother and managing their lives. But that text, that little heart icon from Ryan, it wasn't another cut. It was a key. It unlocked that box. But not in a flood of tears. All that suppressed energy. All that grief. All that quiet rage. It didn't explode. It channeled. It turned from a passive numbness into a highly focused, precise, active state. The auditor in me took over. I wasn't a grieving daughter or an unloved niece anymore. I was a creditor. And the bill was due. The first call came at 7:00 a.m. I was already up, making coffee. I saw Ryan's name and let it ring. He called back. And again. On the fourth try, I picked up and put it on speaker, setting the phone on the counter. What the hell? Jenna, he shouted. His voice tinny and panicked. My card just got declined at the gas station. Do you know how embarrassing that is? I took a sip of my coffee. I don't. But it sounds like a personal problem. What are you talking about? Aunt Brenda's freaking out. She said, you got some text last night. You're really going to do this. You're overreacting. She didn't mean it like that. She didn't mean to kick me out of the family. Or you didn't mean to heart it. He was silent. Then, look. Just turn the cards back on. It's not funny. I'm not laughing. I said. And I hung up. Not 30 seconds later, Aunt Brenda's number flashed. I answered. Jenna. Thank God. She started. But there was no apology in her voice. It was the tone she used when one of her catering orders was wrong. Ryan just told me. Now, I don't know what kind of childish game you're playing, but you've created a mess. The mortgage payment bounced. You need to call the bank. Apologize. And fix this. Immediately. Fix this. I repeated. Not? I'm sorry. Not? Can we talk? Just. Fix this. I ended the call. I stared at my coffee. Watching the steam rise. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just confirmation. I finished my coffee, got dressed for work, and was heading for the door when my phone buzzed with a social media notification. Aunt Brenda had just made a public post on Facebook. It was a picture of her and my mother. From years ago. The caption read, "Thinking about my dear sister Susan today. It's so sad when some people forget who raised them. Gratitude is a lost virtue." Feeling heartbroken. I scrolled through the comments. Oh, Brenda. What's wrong? Thinking of you. You are a saint. Brenda. We all know what you've done for everyone in that family. I read that last one twice. They weren't just ungrateful. They weren't just manipulative. They were actively building a narrative where I was the villain. Where I was the one who had wronged them. They had no remorse. None. That post was the final confirmation. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was a business transaction that had gone bad. And I was going to collect. That Facebook post was the last straw. The pivot from private manipulation to public victimhood. It was impressive. Really? And so stupid. They want to go public, I said to my cat, who just blinked at me. Okay, let's go public. I didn't reply to the post. I didn't engage with the flying monkeys in her comments. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. Julia, I said. It's Jenna. I have a situation I need to escalate. I explained it to her in the same calm, auditor's voice I use for my clients. I laid out the foreclosure payment, the 3 years of failed startups for Ryan, the car lease. I gave her the exact numbers. Down to the cent. I attached my bank statements and the spreadsheet I'd kept. I am no longer their niece. I said, I am their primary creditor. They have defaulted on our verbal agreement, and now they are engaging in public character assassination. Julia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Jenna, this is a lot. Are you sure you want to do this? Once we send this, the family relationship is over. For good. It's already over. I replied. They ended it at 1:151 p.m. last night. This is just the accounting. Got it, she said. Her voice, all business now. I'll draft a formal demand letter. We'll give them 30 days to arrange a repayment plan. If they fail to respond, we'll proceed with legal action to recover your assets. Which means, yes, we will file a lien and force the sale of the house. That's exactly what I want. I'll have the letter drafted and sent by courier this afternoon. Julia said. Certified mail. They'll have to sign for it. Thank you, Julia. I hung up the phone. I looked at the Facebook post one more time. At my aunt's smiling, deceitful face. You wanted to talk about gratitude. I whispered. Let's talk about repayment. The letter Julia drafted was a work of art. It wasn't emotional. It was surgical. It detailed every single loan, every business investment, every missed payment, totaling $780,000. It clearly stated the 30-day window for repayment. It was no longer a request from a niece. It was a formal demand from a secured creditor. The ball was in their court. And I knew they didn't have the money to play. The 30 days passed in silence. No calls. No disparity texts. No response to the legal demand. I just went to work. I balanced my accounts. I waited. I knew they didn't have the money. But I had expected something. A plea. An attack. More Facebook posts. But there was nothing. Just a heavy, defiant silence. On the 31st day, I called Julia. They've defaulted. I said, proceed with the lien and the lawsuit. I already have, Julia said. But her voice was different. It wasn't the brisk, professional tone from before. It was grave. Jenna, I was going to call you. While my team was doing the full title search for the lawsuit, we found something. My blood went cold. What? There's another lien on the house. A big one. A bridge loan for $500,000. Taken out 6 months ago. I was confused. What? That's impossible. I'm the co-owner. I'm the one who saved it from foreclosure. A loan that big would require my signature. There was a pause. The kind of pause that makes the bottom drop out of your stomach. Julia, I said. What did you find? I'm sending you an email right now, she said. I pulled the signature page from the bank. Jenna. It's not your signature. My inbox pinged. I opened the PDF. There. On the dotted line. was my name. Jenna Michaels. Except, it wasn't me. The J was too round. The M was too sharp. It was a forgery. A clumsy, arrogant, obvious forgery. They used it to fund Ryan's real estate venture. Julia said softly. They committed bank fraud. Jenna, using your name. I stared at the signature. I wasn't just the silent investor anymore. I wasn't just the scapegoat. I was the cover. They had actively, criminally, used my identity to steal $500,000. This was the shadow ledger my mother always knew about. The hidden, toxic accounting of the family's betrayals. This signature was the final entry. The numbness I'd felt before was gone. The focused calm was gone. What replaced it was something cold. Something sharp. Something surgical. This was no longer a family dispute. It was no longer a civil lawsuit. They had made it a criminal offense. So, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. The 30-day notice is irrelevant now. Completely. Julia said, this is a flagrant breach of your co-owner agreement and, well, it's a felony. We can file for an immediate, expedited foreclosure. And we have to file a criminal complaint. Do it. I said. Jenna, are you? File everything. I said, my voice like ice. The civil suit for the $780,000, the criminal complaint for fraud, and the expedited foreclosure, everything. Now. I hung up. I looked at the forged signature on my screen. And for the first time, I finally understood. They didn't just want my money. They wanted my life, my name, my credit, my silence. And they were willing to commit a crime to take it. They thought I was just the cold one. They had no idea what a truly precise, methodical audit looked like. They were about to find out. Another month passed. The legal machine moves slowly. But it is relentless. And I had the paper trail. I was at home. One Tuesday evening. When my intercom buzzed, I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. And my heart stopped. It was them. Aunt Brenda and Ryan. Standing on my doorstep. They didn't look arrogant. They didn't look angry. They looked broken. Destroyed. I buzzed them in. I opened my apartment door and stood there, blocking the entrance. Aunt Brenda's eyes were red and swollen. Her hair was a mess. Ryan looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Jenna. Brenda whispered. Her voice cracked. Jenna. Please. I said nothing. They're saying fraud. She stammered, holding a letter in her shaking hand. The bank? They're talking about prison. Jenna? Prison for Ryan. They're going to take the house. Our house. Ryan, who had been hiding behind her, finally burst forward. Jenna, you don't understand? It was just a signature. I was going to pay it back. I told her it was fine. Please. You have to call them. Tell them it's a mistake. Tell them. Tell them you signed it. Tell them I signed it. He was asking me to commit a felony to cover his felony. The sheer, blinding entitlement of it all. Do something for your cousin Brenda, wailed, grabbing my arm. He's your family. Family. That word again. I looked at her hand on my arm. I looked at Ryan's terrified, selfish face. My heart was steady. My hands were still. There was no pity. There was no anger. There was just the end of the ledger. Wait here, I said. My voice was calm. I turned, walked to the small table in my hall, and picked up 2 envelopes. I had prepared them. I knew this day would come. I walked back to the door. Brenda was still crying. He's your only cousin. Jenna, you asked me to do something, I said, holding out the envelopes. I already did. Brenda looked at me, confused. She fumbled and took them. She opened the first one. Her eyes scanned the legal heading. It was the official, court-stamped notice for the public auction of the brownstone. The date was set for next month. No, she breathed. Ryan ripped the second envelope from her hand. He tore it open. It was a copy of the finalized, accepted criminal complaint filed with the district attorney's office. His name, and hers, right at the top, next to the word fraud. Jenna. No. Please. Ryan whimpered, the paper shaking in his hand. You can't. I looked at him. I looked at my aunt, who was now leaning against the wall, hyperventilating. I'm not part of this family. Remember, I said. It wasn't cruel. It was just a fact. A fact they had established at 11:51 p.m. Goodbye, Aunt Brenda. And I gently, firmly, closed the door. I heard her scream my name in the hallway. I heard Ryan start to sob. I double-locked the door. The final click echoed in the sudden silence. The books were balanced. The case unraveled quickly after that. With the forgery evidence, there was no trial. The house was sold at auction, as scheduled. The bank was paid back first, including the $500,000 from the fraudulent loan, after all the debts were settled. The remaining funds, what was left of my mother's legacy and my own investment, were wired directly to my account. It almost covered what I had spent, Ryan, to protect his mother. Took a plaid deal. He pleaded guilty to felony fraud. He got 5 years of probation and a permanent criminal record. His career in real estate was over before it ever began. I heard Aunt Brenda moved into a small, rented apartment across town. I never heard from either of them again. That night, after the final wire transfer hit my account, I set my laptop. I opened my old files and found the one I'd been keeping for almost a decade. The Excel spreadsheet. Family expenses. Brenda divided by Ryan. I opened it. The rows and columns filled the screen. A meticulous record of every car payment, every emergency loan, every utility bill, every bailed-out startup. My life. Quantified in debits. At the very bottom, in bold, was the grand total, an astronomical sum. I stared at that number for a long time. It wasn't just money. It was the price of my silence, the cost of being the scapegoat. I moved my cursor over the file icon. I right-clicked. A menu appeared. I clicked delete. A small box popped up. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this file? I clicked yes. It was gone. That night, for the first time in as long as I can remember, I went to sleep. And I slept all the way through till morning. No guilt. No noisy. Just quiet.